And so I will open the meeting and thank both Ms. Hoke and Ms. Dreyfus for their willingness to serve and be part of the next waves of Board of Health, depending on whether you have good luck or bad luck next week and how one chooses to define that. So with that, we will open the meeting. Ellen, it's been like a year that I'm chair, and I want to really maintain my perfection of never quite opening it right. So, feel free to let me know if I'm missing anything, but I think we had 2 things to add to the agenda. Is that right?
I just had one.
Oh, perfect. Even better.
Yeah.
I see. So do I have a motion to add? Is that my perfect? Do I have a motion to add the 25 Bear Hill Road discussion for? Ellen, I've gone rogue. What do I need to add? Is it Bear Hill?
Yes, the 25
Perfect.
Bear Hill Road.
So do I have a motion to add 25 Bear Hill with Eli Adams review of room count?
So moved.
Second.
Hearing no further discussion.
Daryl, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Matt Vitale, aye. And Mark, is it realistic for us to take a tackle at that? Because I see Eli here and I know we've got a 7:15 agenda item. Does that sound reasonable to you to start there and see what we get through?
Sure. I don't know if the potential builder, not the potential, the builder or the owner, I hear at this point they were going to join in.
I see Eli's name on both the agenda and in the room, so I'm hopeful that that is a good sign.
Okay, that's fine. I don't know if the builder's here, but yeah, I think we could do it. It's really a room count issue, determining the room count based on the pictures and the floor plans and determining the basement room they're proposing, if it's a walkout or not, looking at the bathroom to determine if the bathroom can be a 3/4, which you'll have to look at the floor plan for the basement, the proposed floor plan to determine that. I've already denied this permit. The reason I denied it was the room count and the 3/4 bath. But again, I wanted to afford the board an opportunity to look at it and determine what you may think.
Perfect. So with that, I will pull up basement and proposed first floor plan. And Eli, if there's something different I should be pulling up, feel free to let me know. That's at least what it's labeled here.
Okay, and our builder is here as well.
Perfect. And who's your builder?
I just saw him on.
Hello.
Just who? Sorry, I can't see because I've got the screen up. Is that Miss Al?
Yeah, that's me right here. Yeah.
Perfect. Sounds good. And so, Mark, do I have the most appropriate plans up to sort of look at this? Is that?
I believe so. You're looking at the basement plan and then the proposed changes to it.
Perfect.
There, it's a basement plan. I don't know if it's a walkout. I did advise the builder's administrator to let us know tonight.
Okay.
And then also the room count for the existing floors, which will be below that.
Okay, perfect. So if we sort of look at the first floor,
and
it
you
looks
do
like
have pictures, just so you know, too. The pictures are really good. They took some good pictures.
okay, perfect. And so, Mark, as you were looking at the first floor, did you land at 4 rooms for the existing?
4 or 5 based on that dining room configuration to the kitchen, which also has an eating area.
Okay.
So the pictures will help for you to see that as well.
Okay, perfect. So either first is either 4 or 5. And Daryl, does that sound right to you as well? And Rebecca?
Yeah, I was curious, to the left of the word kitchen, there's something white. What does that represent?
This kind of rectangle?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
pictures might show that. I don't know if you can draw up the picture of that area.
That's just a couch.
Perfect.
Oh, okay.
It's like it's a big area, kitchen, living kind of, the picture will show that, and then a dining area. So that's
right.
why I counted 5.
right.
But again,
I'm going to say I guess I would see 4 because it looks like it's a counter with chairs and then an island, a working island. So one could either they have a sofa there now, but to me, that would be where a kitchen table would go,
Sure, I think
which
there
makes
might be
that all
one.
a kitchen in my mind. And then the dining room could be a living room, family room, dining room, formal dining room.
Yeah.
It's
So it
another
sounds like,
room.
Daryl, it sounds like you're landing at 4. Do I
I
have that right?
am, I
Okay.
am inclined to that
Uh,
because there's not a kitchen table in the kitchen at the moment.
perfect.
I
And
think
I'm,
the picture might help, though. I think that might show you a little bit more.
I just want to
Okay.
orient to the floors first and then do the pictures. Does that sound okay,
Okay.
Mark?
Sure.
Perfect. And then on the second floor, it looks pretty straightforward, which is 4 bedrooms with the walk-in closet. And I think the nature of this space was also captured in the pictures. Is
That
this
is
kind of the
correct.
question? Okay,
The
perfect.
original plan that came in, which unfortunately the system did not save as a public record, and I've asked the building commissioner to repopulate it, had that labeled as an office, but even so, it is off the bedroom. So it's a
Okay.
room off the bedroom. And again, do you want to count it in the room count or not? But it's being used as an office with a slanted roof.
Okay, perfect. And so it looks like we've got either 4 to 5 rooms on the first floor, 4 to 5 rooms on the second floor, with the nature of that great room space in the upper left on the first floor being the question, and the space on that's attached to the bedrooms, but currently being used as an office on the second floor. Are those kind of our
Oh,
key
now I
issues?
see the labeling of that as living room. Okay, now I
Yeah,
understand that.
that's why I
issue.
counted it as 5 originally.
All right, so let's, and then for the pictures, I've got first floor photographs.
Yeah, to kind of give you the playroom, which is to the right of the diagram.
That's the
of the floor.
playroom.
Yeah, and then there's that kitchen that's kind of set up.
The
these
kind of
pictures-
kitchen.
Yeah, they do have a kitchen table. There
Okay.
this time.
Oh, they do.
Yeah, and there's the dining room that's set up like kind of a living room. It's a little confusing, but the pictures do help. I mean, to get an
Okay.
idea of the house, there's the kitchen into that area that they're calling a dining room, I believe. The living room, which is separate. So it's really that kitchen and how it's,
I'm just trying to orient, are these, it's really just that kitchen space that's kind of the key
Yeah.
issue. So we've
Yeah.
got kitchen, dining room. So this is sort of that space.
yeah,
And then
Yes.
let me just jump back to the picture for the, or to the floor plan. And so he sort of had dining room off the kitchen. And I guess I'm just trying to orient to how the living room comes in. Because for me, it's kind of a question of, do you have kitchen and do you sort of have a contiguous space that is here?
Yeah, I guess the space is open, so it's presently how they're using it, I guess, is how they labeled it.
Yeah,
Yeah, which if I was looking at it blank, I would associate what's currently labeled as the living room as the table area in the kitchen.
because
In terms of how we've viewed other houses that have this kind of layout where there is seating there, but it looked to be at a counter height seating.
Yeah.
Which a lot of kitchens have, but then they have an area for a table.
I guess for me, when I sort of look at this, if we imagine that the island is absent, this feels like a kind of, like if we sort of picture this being out and that this were equally open, I think we would often be comfortable calling this conjoined space a room, given the breadth of the opening between the two spaces and how,
Mm,
kind of,
A
I
separate
sort of-
function, yeah, it's a separate function from the kitchen where there is room for a kitchen table. But again, that's why I had trouble with this one. It's complicated.
Yeah.
and so for me, I guess I would say I sort of land at the 4 here. I think this corner is complicated. I'm glad you brought it to us, Mark. I
Okay.
think the playroom feels clean, living room feels clear. I think the living room that we saw pictured as a pattern of use, but for us in the building permit, I think we need to sort of say how somebody will use it's different. I feel like if I take out the couch, if I take out those things,
Yes.
this kind of thing, I would be sort of
Eating
open to
area.
calling. Yeah, I mean, I would sort of say it's like an eating great room that may have a kind of 2 patterns of use. And so I don't feel like if we sort of remove some of the accoutrements that are here and just looked at the layout of the walls, I feel like there's other scenarios that we would have treated that as kitchen
Sure.
and
I
great
agree.
room living space, which
I
sort of,
agree.
I actually feel historically that we have looked at a kitchen as having room for a kitchen table. Not that everybody wants that.
Yep.
But historically, I think we've done that, but we've had lots of houses where you could say that the living room flows into the dining room. Ignoring that kitchen portion there, those other two layouts with the little sidewalls coming in, and even though it's a big opening, functionally you expect to see that, but they do have a living room down here, you know, as a separate room. I don't know. I would never look at that dining room, living room area from the past
Yeah,
as one room. I would look at that, what they're calling the living room kitchen, as one room.
okay. But I think in either case, for the question of the permit,
Yeah, it
sort
still
of
comes
which-
out to two.
right, and so it sounds like you sort of can end up at 4 in a way that feels consistent. I think I
Yeah.
can end up at 4 in a way that feels consistent, even if it's different. But in either case, we can kind of land at 4.
And
There.
I would agree also. I would suggest they relabel that living room as the eating area.
Okay, and
Or
then
just not label it.
Or
Separately.
exactly, or not label it.
yeah, and then I guess for me,
There is a picture of that closet.
Yep. And I was just hoping for some guidance. It's just hard for me on the plans to sort of get a mental picture of it. Either Misael or Eli, how big is the walk-in closet? Like, what's the square footage we're talking about here?
Mark, the walk-in closet is pretty, you know, if you did have like a, you know, full, you know, ceiling height, you know, at 7 feet at least, then yes, you probably would say it's a good size for a bedroom or something else. But because if you can put up the picture, it shows this slanted ceiling. So I haven't measured, but you can tell it's like, I would say 60-70% of that you don't even have like a 7 feet high, you know, a minimum in order to call something that you can, you know, have like a even an office. And honestly, I labeled it as a closet because it just feels like a closet, but they have been used as an office because, you know, it's a room that's been sitting there for nothing. So.
And that room is exclusively accessible from bedroom 2?
That's correct. And you do have a door right there where your mouse was.
Right
set.
here, yep.
Right there. It's about it's less than 28 inches. So
And bedroom 1 does not have access to it, correct?
no, it doesn't yet.
And so I guess for me, like, Daryl, I'd love your take too. Like, I feel like we've had various bedroom suites that we consider, and this feels different than those in that there's less renovation here than in other spaces, but it's exclusively accessible from a single room. And then sort of looking at the picture, again, like, it doesn't feel inconsistent with other areas that we might treat as not sort of, this doesn't feel high risk for being a bedroom to me. This looks like it's probably 5.5 feet at the walls, something like that.
Well, I think that that space is more than ample to be a bedroom from other houses that exist in town, not the newer ones, but, you know, certainly older homes. However, to me, the key point is that it's only accessible through another bedroom. And again, while that was common in some historic homes, we have treated those as bedroom suites when there's only one access.
And I
rather than
agree.
People passing through. So I would view it as a bedroom suite.
And
I
so
agree
that's,
also to that, especially since you can only access through the bedroom. I think they will have to realize, though, they could never build like a separate stairway to it.
and so I guess for me, what I sort of land on is and then Mark, this is a 4-bedroom system, is that right?
That is correct. It is a system that received a certificate of compliance recently. It is using innovative alternative technology. So with that said, the certificate was issued 2016. So it would have to stay at a 4-bedroom. So the room
Yep.
count became the issue, not the bedroom count, in respect to where do we go with this? Well, this may be a 9th room.
Yeah.
With a bathroom that right now is a 3/4 bathroom, a bathroom with a shower.
So what I would say is, I think for me, I can get to 4 and 4 upstairs. I think that the discussion of the basement space, given the three-quarter shower that's opening directly into a finished space, is something that'll probably take more time than we have with our 7:15. And I think we've got a 7:15 appointment. Is that right?
Yes, there was.
And so what I would say is, I think I can totally get there on 8 rooms. I cannot get there yet on the 3/4 bathroom. And it's sort of a lift for me because it's opening into the space, but I'd love to talk about that more. But I think we need to put a pin in it until after we do Silverwoods as a scheduled appointment. Does that sound right?
Sounds good to me.
It's same
Okay.
here.
And Eli, Misael, I'm sorry I tried, but we'll circle back after we do our 7:15.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect. And so for the 7:15, I think yep, I see Jonathan. And then is it best for Mark or Tom to introduce the background in terms of our discussion for Silverwood?
I can start. I have no problem with Tom going over his report that he recently submitted. We've been working on this project with Mr. Jonathan Hodson Walker for the past 3 years, and before that too, I just got to grab everything. It's quite a lengthy file, but we had some pending items from 2009, 2010. So I'm going to break it into 3 categories. One is the well, excuse me, sorry about that. The well, the septic system, the connection to the septic system that's there for the house, the 2 houses on the other property, and the use of the building. And just so the board knows, I spoke to the building commissioner who could not be at this meeting tonight. He had received the same report that Tom did on the walkthrough of the facility and was curious if the actual barn was being used for any type of activities, might it be events and so forth. And I explained to him, no, I believe, and he said it can't be. He said basically it can only be used, the barn can only be used for the present produce barn and the present farm hands. That building, the reason it cannot be used for events is the new safety and fire codes would require sprinklers and other items to be in that building, which falls under his jurisdiction. So that end, I just told him I would update the board on that since he couldn't be at our meeting. As it relates to the planning board for the use of that property, they are reviewing the use of the property's events at their, I believe, their next planning board meeting. So what I did tell the building inspector is that before any food permits are issued, we'll pass those food permits by him so he can determine the use of that for that use, basically. So he can determine if the food permit can be utilized outside of the barn. And again, that's going to rely on the planning board. As it relates to the well, the water tests that were required have been submitted, and we are waiting. Filter was provided, information on a filter, which is required by our code. They're going to be filtering for manganese, and they will be required to test after the filter to determine if it did reduce the manganese. It has to be a whole house filter. Again, this is for the produce barn. And maybe hand washing, as I spoke with the building commissioner this morning, but he wants limited use of that building because it's not for events. As it relates to the septic system, they connected the bathrooms in the barn to a septic tank, and that went to the existing house, excuse me. I'm going to cough for a minute. The existing house on Pleasant Street. So my allergies are getting to me, but anyways, so that septic connection is to a different septic system. But I did ask if we can discuss this later. I think Mr. Hodson Walker will be presenting where we're going with a potential septic system for the barn itself, which they have done soil testing about 3 years ago. And we were, again, that's an option he can look at. So at the present time, if an event is to occur there, it can't be in the barn as a special event such as a food event, unless it's the only thing that the building commissioner did say, if an event is happening for the produce barn, such as the CSA being in there for something to do with farming, that's a little different. Again, I will leave that to the building commissioner. But if an event's being held, say for a wedding or say a high school graduation, The tent could be used, but only with porta toilets, because those bathrooms in the barn, one, you shouldn't have anyone in the barn but produce help. But the bathrooms in the barn are not for any additional population except for the farm hands. So that's the septic. We talked about the use and the well. I just need to wait for the information on the well. So that's the history in a nutshell. I might have missed a couple things, but I did want to highlight what the building commissioner said earlier today.
And I guess I just want to kind of make sure I understand. And so is what we're doing today a status check of, hey, this is the current pattern of use? A question arose, are we consistent? Or is the goal for us to provide input to the planning board about whether the infrastructure available, we've sort of worked with the property owner to come up with, hey, these are kind of the parameters, and does that fit within the planning board permit request? Like, what's sort of our scope for tonight of what we're hoping to do in terms of guidance and outputs?
And to add to that, I think the only thing we can discuss is food events that are happening outside of the barn underneath the tent with porta toilets. And
Okay.
again, it still needs planning board approval because it's an event that they would need to review. And I believe, I can't remember if it's another week or so away, but I believe the planning board and Mr. Hudson Walker might be able to let us know when he's meeting with the planning board for that part of it.
Okay.
I can tell you that it's planning board's hearing is scheduled for May 16th. And the planning board did ask for any comments on the proposal from the board.
Thank you, Ellen.
Okay. And then Tom, I saw your report. Any other comments that you would add, and then we'll pass the baton to Mr. Hudson Walker just to add any of the property owner perspective.
So yes, I did conduct a visit last evening. Mr. Hudson Walker was kind enough to show me through the facility. I just wanted to acclimate myself with the barn space, and Mr. Hudson Walker is under the understanding that no events will be held in there at this time until we have all that vetted out through the planning board, as Mark had stated. And moving forward, we're going to vet each individual food establishment application on a case-by-case basis. And we're in receipt of, I think, 2 applications for events in June. I'm working with those vendors and keeping them abreast of what the requirements are. And again, awaiting what the final determination of use for if that's acceptable to have those events. I think one of them's both of them might be mobile food vehicles. One involves a pig roast. So I've been in conversation with them about that and safety measures surrounding the preparation of that, and access to hand washing as was brought up, and to ensure that, if permits are granted on a temporary basis, that there is portable hand washing facilities, sanitary facilities, as Mark has noted, in terms of porta potties, and to prohibit the use of those built out restrooms in the agricultural barn, as they're not permitted for public use, but only for the farm hands, to my understanding.
Perfect. Tom, thanks so much. Mr. Hudson Walker, is there anything that we're missing from your point of view, or anything that we've misunderstood?
Nope, I think you guys have captured it all pretty well. I don't have any difference of opinion. I think we've worked hard to get our water testing completed. We've got the drawings submitted that we're deficient on. We have a clear understanding of how the property can be used, and we're careful to make sure that people that are renting the facility for events are very well aware of all of those conditions. So I don't have anything to add at this time.
Perfect. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. So in terms of comments to the planning board, it sounds like the biggest pieces are, we've said like 9 ways that the barn is not a public space as it exists, which sounds like it's probably the first part of that, or the barn is not a public event space. Let me put it more accurately. And I think that sounds like that derives primarily from the current status with the building inspector. And then if it were, there'd be a secondary set of considerations about the toileting facilities, the flow, and the other kind of out there questions about what the long-term plans for infrastructure are, which sounds like it's sort of out of scope for the moment. And really, it's the kind of current conditions of with the current pattern of use. It sounds like, Tom, you feel like you've had a kind of productive site visit, identified the areas that we need to tweak, but are broadly on track. And Mark, it sounds like water testing wise, we're good.
Well, if I can add, they still have
Yep.
to get the manganese filter into.
My apologies. Correct. The manganese filter with a compliant test result afterwards, but it sounds like those are the only outstanding issues for you. Is that right?
That is correct. I do need to go out and look at the well for a well apron. That's an easy thing to do if it's not. And check the final grades over the line and the septic tank that goes to the present house system.
And that's residual from way back.
That is correct, and
Okay.
I believe those are easy things to do. I think the manganese filter will be the energy type resource that needs to be done. But Mr. Hudson Walker has indicated he's already submitted the filter he's planning to use.
Perfect.
And he's aware of what he needs to do, and I think he's ready to do the work.
Perfect. Any other comments or questions from the board?
I do have a question. So I took a look at your website, or the farm's website earlier, and see that it talks about outdoor venue for events and that sort of thing. But there was one photo, I can't tell if it was the backdrop of the barn or in the barn, something about corporate events. So is that somewhere that you're headed at some point, or that's just a historic photo from when there were events in the barn? I just wasn't sure how that fits in.
Yeah, that's a historic photo. That is not where the barn is headed. We're crystal clear on the barn usage. There are going to be no events in that barn. Not until
Okay.
if we did that, we'd have to change the use to assembly usage, which is like new construction. And as I think Mark may have mentioned, there's a lot of requirements we'd have to pass to meet that, which right now are just prohibitively expensive.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments from the board? Perfect. Mr. Hudson Walker, if you're good, I'm good.
I'm good. We have a good understanding of what we need to do, and we're working through. I think one of the outstanding item might be, I think in one of the prior calls that we had, we talked about the farm getting a site sort of food facility permit.
Yeah.
We need to do that. We discussed that with Tom last night. I think we're clear on what we need to do in terms of getting certifications for people. So that's one thing that we will be doing.
I think that sounds like a marvelous idea. I think what I feel anxious about wearing like the Board of Health hat is like the event where somebody says, oh, I didn't know I need to get a permit. And then they get very mad at us because they've got somebody who's unpermitted. And then it just becomes kind of a rodeo for us trying to jump through hoops. And that's part of what would be so appealing about the site permit is it just dramatically reduces the risk of last minute chaos. If you have a site user who's not savvy or hasn't done it before and has lots of good intentions, but not very much experience in it. I don't mean to play you guys, but the sort of end consumer. And so that single site would certainly make that more resilient. So I think that's wonderful that you guys are considering that.
Great.
Well, have a wonderful night and thank you for taking the time to meet with us.
Thank you all, and thank you for the input. Much appreciated.
All right.
Thank you.
Perfect. So maybe we can go back to the basement of 25 Bear Hill Road. Does that sound okay? And do we still
I
have?
was just wondering,
Oh.
should we quickly mention while we still, I don't know if more people are coming now or later, but just that update on the septic 101.
Oh, yeah. Let's do that. I think that's a wonderful suggestion. Thanks, Daryl. And do we have Tom on here?
Yes,
Yes.
I am. Thank you very much. If I could just take a couple seconds.
Absolutely.
Yes, the Groundwater Protection Committee is after a 2-month snow delay, has our Septics 101 for Sherborn homeowners webinar on next week, Tuesday, May 9th, 7 to 9 p.m. We have about 65 people registered now. We'd love more. We had over 100 people last year attend our corollary event on private wells. But I think this will be a very informative session for people learning best practices for maintaining their septics, and also if they're considering the benefits of upgrading to modern systems away from older septics and or cesspools, which we still have in this town. So there's registration information on the front page of the town website, the town news website. You'll see the registration link.
This is
That's
definitely,
it.
it's definitely a wonderful tool, especially with a lot of new community members who may not have the same experience. It's the sort of thing where you make a mistake once and it can get really expensive later. And so I'm really glad that you guys are offering this. It's a wonderful resource. Will
Great.
will the Zoom be recorded in a way that's accessible to people?
Just like what we did with the well event, we record it. We document all the questions and answers, and all that'll be posted on the groundwater protection website. And we have a panel from your board, Daryl and Mark, joining us to help with the questions, besides the speakers from the nonprofit RCAP out of Worcester.
Perfect. Well, thanks so much for doing it. I think my only other suggestion would be to also consider posting a link to that on the Board of Health website, just as another place that people new to town might happen to look in one of the sidebar sections, if that's appropriate.
Sure, I can maybe talk to Ellen about that. Sure.
Perfect. Ellen, any concerns with that?
No, I don't have any concerns. I just can't do it. Jeannie Guthrie would have to.
Perfect.
Oh, okay. I go to Jeannie a lot for web things. No problem.
But I think that would be especially for the retained piece. I know people can end up getting to it later, and that would be a wonderful thing to have in the sidebar as a great resource.
Okay, I'll work on that.
Perfect. Tom, thanks so much for your time and all your hard work.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
All right. Are we okay going to the basement?
Yes.
Perfect. So let's do basement photographs. Just to kind of do an initial look. Actually, you know what? I'm too disoriented in it. I'm gonna change my plan. Let's go to the basement and first floor plan. And so let's just look at the proposed. And so it looks like we've got stairs coming down here. We then have this space. We have access into the garage that then leads up the stairs. We've got the space back here, and this all looks proposed to be finished. And then I think the question was whether this is a walkout space. Is that sort of our question for the basement photos? So that pattern looks like it's underneath the deck. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's right, sir.
Perfect. Okay, so this is a section of it. I think some portion of this is being removed in the proposed pieces with the lolly column. Is that right?
The lolly column will get gone, get replaced by a beam. But right on the left-hand side on that picture, we are planning on enclosing a small closet to receive HVAC unit. Well, I'm sorry, the HVAC unit is already there. So we are planning on enclosing their area. So it'll be like about 5 feet by 5 feet. It shows on the floor plan.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. And so I think this is that sort of dog leg off. This is the stairs going down. Is this the doorway into the garage here on the left?
Yeah, that's right. It's about from that wall to the stairs about 4 feet wide.
Okay, perfect. And then this is the kind of going back into the laundry area. Is that what we're seeing here?
That's
Okay.
right. Yeah.
And then obligate basement freezer. And what's this section here on the bottom right?
Right. So that's right behind the stairs. And as right now, it's just like a median center, unfinished closet. So everything will stay as is, but finished.
Okay. And then this is just another view of that walkout. Is there a single point of exit that sort of exits out underneath the deck?
Yes.
And then this is viewing the other direction. That's the back of the closet.
Yeah.
And what's behind that door now?
That's right behind the stair as well. It's
Okay,
actually, the picture shows it's a bit off, but that wall facing you about the median ceiling is about 4 or 5 feet wide. It looks like it's bigger, but it's not.
okay, perfect. So if we kind of go back to the basement and first floor. So for me, I felt good with room count. I feel like I am not very comfortable with a 3/4 bathroom in the basement. Where are other people for the gut check?
To me, it automatically makes this a bedroom by how we've treated other rooms with this, especially because there's egress and, one can get outside from that room. I do see it as one big room, so I'm counting it as one. But that 3/4 bathroom, that's how we treat it. And I
Yeah.
can't see, it would be a big departure from how we've treated others, but a half bath would be fine.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at now too. I think with a room count, the space can be finished, but at least for me, I can't get there with a 3/4 bath. And be consistent with sort of how else we've done it. Rebecca, where are you at?
Well, unfortunately, I actually think that the dining room and I would separate the kitchen and the dining room. So my room count is already higher than yours.
So
And
you're
I
sort of at,
agree.
you're,
Yeah,
you're,
and I
you're at
agree
9.
that there's egress. So I'm really sorry. I think that it really goes over that threshold.
And so it sounds like in terms of overall room count, it sounds like Daryl, at least for me, I'm okay finishing the basement. I mean, Rebecca, I hear your room count is sort of different, and so I'm going to kind of put a pin in that piece of it. Daryl, from your room count above, it sounds like finishing the basement fine, 3/4 bath not fine. Is that a fair summary?
Yes, and I would say with the first floor room count, just as I'm not looking at the labels that they've chosen to assign to the rooms as much as just the layout and what we see across many different types of homes and how we've treated it. Because we've often done that. People label something an office on the second floor, but we call it a bedroom. So I'm not as wedded to how they've labeled it as I am to the configuration.
I think that makes sense because again, all this will be for many years thereafter, where there may be different owners and different patterns of use.
Yeah.
And so I guess so it sounds like for Michelle and Eli, I think if you want us to proceed with a sort of can approve it but not the 3/4 bath, then I think that's a vote we can have. If it's sort of not what you want us to vote on, we can not vote on it and Mark's existing denial will stand. I think that the room count piece is one where I hear Rebecca's count, and Rebecca, my sense is that deed recording the basement space is not something that would resolve the issue for you. Is that fair to say?
Yes, because we know that this is like in perpetuity. We have who knows what's going to happen, who knows how the use might change, and it just that's what makes it so tricky. I mean, we really, I think, need to be consistent, and I think we just can't control human behavior.
Okay, fair enough. And so I guess for Eli and Michelle, it sounds like we could probably get to a 2-to-1 vote on finishing the basement without a 3/4 bath, with some ambivalence and sort of a little bit different math for how we're reaching conclusions on the first floor. But I think aligning in general for the room count for a preponderance of the board, is that something that would be helpful to vote on, or do we leave it with the existing denial?
I think that would be helpful.
Okay.
I
go ahead.
am not 100% sure, but I believe because the board is a 5-member board,
I was just going to
we
bring that.
always have to have at least 3.
Oh, we have to have at least a quorum. Okay.
Yes.
So
we have a quorum.
well, we have a quorum of the board, but we need a quorum of the board to vote in favor to approve the permit. So having said that, then I would recommend that we move this to the next meeting where there's a larger quorum of the board, or one can reasonably anticipate.
I don't think so. I think that the law says you have a quorum, and we have a quorum.
I would,
Not to vote. You have to have at least 3 votes.
because you're a board of 5. What I
Yeah.
would
Yeah, but why
suggest is-
do we not have 3 votes?
Well, I
well,
guess,
ma-
Oh, you're
majority-
saying to pad 2 over to give the permit. I see.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So I would vote it, my own inclination, although this is my last meeting with the board, is that I think this is an approvable permit, though understand that you have a different count. So my assumption, Rebecca, is that for you, it's not because of if you have 5 on the first floor, 4 on the second, and 1 here, it's a 10-room house and a 4-bedroom system. And so the assumption I'm making with this is that you're currently a no, which totally hear you and respect that conclusion. Daryl, it sounds like you are an ambivalent yes, but it feels consistent with kind of past practice enough that with a half bath in the basement, it kind of
Yes.
passes a gut check.
I'm
So
a yes with the half bath.
yes, with a
But
half
I
bath.
mean, wouldn't it be normal procedure to have it be on the date of the hearing and then the applicant can reapply and then go
What-
through this process to have a different date?
I mean, what I would say is I think my 2 cents is like, it's not a hearing because there's no variance. I think this is us giving guidance to Mark as the agent of the board. So I don't think that we need, my recommendation is that we add it to the agenda for the next meeting because like it doesn't have a hearing protocol that it needs to file. And if I were the property owner, I'd say I'd love to get this done as quickly as possible. And I think circumstances would typically have let us have a 4-member board tonight, and just things came up. So I'd love to address that as quickly as possible for the applicant because we're into building season.
And also that will give the applicant a chance to update the plans to what the 2 of the members are asking for.
And so Ellen, if you could add this to the 517 agenda, please.
Yes, I will.
And then Ms. Sale, if you can just update, I think the pictures were incredibly helpful, and at least for me, it just really helped frame it. If we can just update the basement room with a half bath, and it sounds like, again, I can't totally predict what the next iteration of the board will do, but suspect that we'll be able to get to an approve on that in 2 weeks.
Okay, oh, we have it then.
Okay.
The other thing that would be very helpful is to not prep that room with a shower drain or something, because that will just be a slippery slope to it being out of compliance accidentally by somebody in the future.
Yeah, understood. Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks so much, guys. I will not see you in 2 weeks, but I know you'll be well served by a future version of the board. Okay. Let me go back to the agenda, and then Mark, do you want to do the 19 Doppingbrook?
Yes, what has occurred, and we may need to have that at another agenda too, is the room count in the house could be going up to 10. The building permit for 19 Doppingbrook started back last December. And I did approve for some renovations at that property, including a laundry room in the basement. As of a few weeks ago, and I've been asking the building commissioner for an update, and he did give me an update. They finished the basement room without permit, and that may now bring them up to 10 rooms. I don't know for sure, but it may be underground. But now I have to move forward and ask the building commissioner to have them at our next meeting. This information just started.
Okay.
And they were late in getting information to us, but at least I told the building commissioner it would be on the agenda. But if you look at the first floor, maybe I'm all wet, but I'm counting that as 5 rooms. You just went by. I'm sorry, Matt. It's over to the right.
Yep. I think for me, so I sort of landed, I thought 1 for living room, 1 for kitchen, 1 for dining, 1 for great room. And then I was wondering about the sunroom because I feel like we see such variation there. To me, this looked like a room that I would count as a room that is rich in windows, but is not a screened-in porch kind of sunroom. Like that
Exactly.
feels like it's part of it.
It's heated. It's a heated sunroom. I
Yep.
mean, that could all change if they take the heat out. But now they finished the basement room near the laundry room, which is, I think, another one
And
down.
so this one looks to me like I would agree with you. I then end up with 5 on the first floor, 4 on the second floor, which takes them to 9. And any additional basement work would need to be a conversation. because otherwise would count towards the room count and be out of compliance.
And I wish it's my fault, but I didn't share with Ellen what the building commissioner sent late yesterday, but the basement room is large enough to be a room. And again, he brought it to our attention when he was doing the inspection. So I thank him for his work on this. And I think they're going to need to get a deed recording if
Well, and yeah, I mean, I think they're going to need to get a building. I mean, they need to build with a permit, and then we need to look at it and have that conversation.
Yeah, makes sense. Yes.
Perfect. So that does that sound appropriate for the May 17th agenda?
I would suggest.
Yes, I think so.
Okay, perfect. I mean, perfect might not be exactly the right word, but we have a plan. Mark, do you have any update for us on 13 Corsebrook?
Yes, I do. I've been asking the installer almost every week what the status was, and he did tell me about 3 weeks ago he had to finish the system that he was doing in Sherborn, and he would be over there next. And today, the engineer, the installer, and I did the pre-construction conference for the start of that septic system, which I did ask the installer because I did tell him it would be presented tonight to the Board of Health, and he said he expects to be starting by the end of next week. So the engineer is going to go out and stake the system so that the system will be in the right place, because there was some concerns from an abutter as well. And most of the time they stake out the septic system anyways. And then the part that I did go over today that I'm hoping they remember, but he said the owner's planning to do it, is the electric fence that the board approved a couple years ago. That's to go over the septic system to keep livestock from going over the septic system. So I figured let it get it installed. And if any trouble does exist where there's some resistance to putting in the electric fence, which the installer said will not be his responsibility, then I'll work with the owner. But if they're resisting, I'll bring it back to the board.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Mark. Do we want to talk briefly about the proposed asphalt recycling business on the Sherborn board and the associated water concerns?
Yes.
The floor is yours.
Oh, the floor is mine. Okay.
I heard there was a meeting, and that's as much as I know. So
Yes,
I
okay.
will then pass the baton gracefully.
So, yes, there has been some sort of recycling going on in the Lowland Street area of Holliston, which is on our western border, or close to. And so there is a light industrial park there, and there are plans by the owner of one of the properties to increase activities around asphalt recycling. It doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. It's all about how they manage the materials, but that's very unclear at the moment, how they are doing that and how any kind of waste or wastewater or stormwater runoff containing materials carried away from the materials to be recycled is being handled. So there was a beginning discussion on that, and I think Holliston is working on it. And I haven't heard anything since that meeting, although I've been extremely busy with work and other things. So I don't know. Tom, is Tom still on? Nope. Okay. No, Tom. Oh, yes, there you are.
Yep, I'm on, and that was a good summary, Daryl. I did have a couple emails. There were two concerned Holliston residents that approached the Groundwater Protection Committee, and so that's why we put it on our agenda and invited them to share their concerns. I did learn subsequent to that they think this property, I think it's 157 Lowland or 165. I think it covers two parcels. I believe they think it'll be on an upcoming Holliston Planning Board hearing again. But if I learn of a date, I'll send it to you if you're interested. But that, it's amazing. Some of you may know the history. that whole area, that industrial park in East Holliston is right in the zone 2 of some of their town public water supply wells, and they've got uses like asphalt recycling and other manufacturing and
Mhm.
storage that I didn't think was allowed in a zone 2.
Rebecca, we're
it
just getting
could be
weird
that it was-
feedback from your iPhone. If you can mute it.
I'm doing that.
Thanks so much, Rebecca. Sorry to interrupt, Tom.
No, that's unless there are any more questions, I think
No,
I think that sums it up.
I would just thank you. You and the Groundwater Protection Committee continue to do a wonderful job kind of keeping everybody apprised, and we appreciate the time.
Our pleasure. So
Um,
so do you guys.
It's all glamour. Well,
Thanks.
with that, why don't we go to an ice cream truck? We've gone from the basement to asphalt to food permits. Does that sound okay?
Very appetizing sequence.
You like that? I think it'll be delicious.
As long as
Um,
they sell creamsicles.
One can only hope, but there's certainly a wide variety of lovely things that look like they're coming to town. So Tom, it looks like we've got 9 tonight. Anything that you'd particularly flag for us, or any areas that we need to particularly pay attention to for the 2023 food establishment permits?
I've been in conversation with the organizers of the library fair. I believe all the permits have been vetted through. I think we have one outstanding. I had a conversation with Ellen fee that is due. I don't know if Ellen has any others that owe us for the permit fees.
No, there's no others.
Like the Kona Ice truck, that's a very low risk operation. Big T's Jerky House, I just emailed them. They were the ones that owed us the permit fee, and then I also asked them to update their menu to reflect that allergen statement that's required. But I don't have any pressing concerns. I'm still trying to arrange for some inspections of the mobile food vehicles. If not, I can inspect them the day of.
Perfect. And Ellen, what are our voting options? Can we vote for these by batches, or is it best to do it individually?
You could do the ones that are
Like for the library fair, we could do.
Okay. But
The other ones we should do individually.
yeah.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the permit for Wicked Fruitful LLC, the Farm at Baptist Common of Templeton, Nutty Bird Granola of Worcester, Everything Jalapeno and Nut, and TC Scoops for the library fair?
So moved. Rebecca, would you like to?
Second, in my process of trying to turn off the interference, I muted everything, sorry.
No worries. Thanks so much, Rebecca. Hearing no further discussion.
Daryl, I.
Rebecca Honeywell, I.
Matt Vitale, aye. Do I have a motion to approve the food establishment permit for Kona Ice of Framingham and Natick?
So moved.
Second,
Hearing no further discussion.
Daryl, I.
Rebecca Honeywell, I.
Matt Vitale, aye. Do I have a motion to approve the food establishment permit for Sweet Meadow Farm?
So moved.
Second,
Hearing no further discussion.
Daryl, I.
Rebecca Honeywell, I.
Matt Vitale, aye. Do I have a motion to approve the Bird's Nest Italian street food permit?
So moved.
Second,
Hearing no further discussion.
Daryl, I.
Rebecca Honeywell, I.
Matt Vitale, aye. Do I have a motion to approve Big T's Jerky House food establishment permit conditional to the receipt of the fee and the follow-up issues that Tom mentioned?
So moved.
Second,
Hearing no further discussion.
Daryl, I.
Rebecca Honeywell, I.
Matt Vitale, aye. And then do I have a motion for the ratification of the mobile food vendor permits for 429 that had been issued by the food inspector for Mr. Gourmet and Grandy's Ice Cream?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none.
Daryl, I.
If I may interject, I think one did say that it's waiting on a fee condition.
That was Big T's. I think we got that one in the last cycle. This
Okay,
is the
wasn't-
retro ratification. Is
It
that
wasn't Grandy's Ice Cream?
They've paid, Mark.
Okay, thank you.
paid.
I'm reading an old agenda, sorry.
no worries. I appreciate you keeping an eye out for us. Hearing no further discussion.
Daryl, I.
Rebecca Honeywell, I.
Matt Vitale, aye. And then Tom for Sweet Meadow. How are we there?
So I've been in contact with Julie. I'm gonna arrange a meeting as I do yearly with her to vet out her SOPs and required documents for a recreational camp permit. And typically I conduct the food inspection for her food permit, which usually consists of pizza to be served on site, sourced from a pizza establishment in Natick. I forget the name of it, but I generally will ask for a most recent health inspection from them, a copy of their health permit, just so we have that on file. I certainly will redouble check the hand washing access and facilities to make sure they're fully operational, given some history there. And we should be good to go.
Perfect. Sounds good. Do I have a motion to approve the Sweet Meadow recreational camp for children permit?
So moved.
Second.
Oh, well, we're approving the food establishment, not the recreational camp. Do I have that right?
You did the food already. That
Oh,
was,
sorry, I'm looking at a different list. Yep. Oh, okay, got it. So I'm so moving it, yes.
And I seconded.
Hearing no further discussion.
Daryl, I.
Rebecca Honeywell, I.
Matt Vitale, aye. And Tom, I think that does it for your book of business. Is that what you think too?
Yes, sir. It looks about right.
Perfect. Thank you so much and have a fabulous night.
Thank you. And I just want to express my gratitude to you and thank you for your service. It's been a pleasure to serve underneath you.
Well, you're too kind, but I promise you'll be getting upgrades. So it has been my pleasure working with you, Tom, and I appreciate all you do to keep our community safe.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Have a good night now.
You too.
I did not have any substantive edits to the minutes. Did anybody else have anything to provide for the 329 minutes?
Nope.
I had a tiny thing.
Perfect. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of March 29th?
So moved.
Second.
Hearing no further discussion.
Daryl, I.
Rebecca Honeywell, I.
Matt Vitale, aye. And then let's do the 2023 disposal work installer permits. Mark, any issues or concerns with our Moore's Head or Paul Lutazzi?
No, they both were installers previously. They just did not get their permits this year, and I'd recommend approval for both as installers, conditional to pre-construction conferences.
Perfect. Do I have a motion to approve the 2023 disposal works installer permit for our Moore's Head excavating, conditional to a pre-construction conference?
So moved.
Second.
Hearing no further discussion.
Daryl, I.
Rebecca Honeywell, I.
Matt Vitale, aye. And for, do I have a motion to approve the 2023 disposal work installer permit for our Paul Lutazzi of Dover, conditional to the pre-construction meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Hearing no further discussion.
Daryl, I.
Rebecca Honeywell, I.
Matt Vitale, aye. So I think we're good there. Ellen, I think we've gotten everything under other business other than finalizing the 517 agenda. Does that look right to you? Can I put a big X through it?
Yes, you can.
Perfect. And then we had the ethics and open meeting law training session, which is on May 15th, which is one of our other ones that I would really encourage interested folks to attend. It's at 6:30 on the 15th and is a virtual training with the Zoom link below.
And the nice thing about this that differs from the online ethics training by the state is there are live people, Chris Petrini and Heather White, to ask questions of.
Excellent. And then we received the Massachusetts Coastal Railroad 2023 yearly operational plan, which is just a regulatory set of materials that we get every year. Ellen, do you have any other comment on that, or did I summarize it well?
No, I have no other comment. It's mostly for conservation. We just are copied on it.
Okay, perfect.
So I have to say, this one has had more information than plans we've received in the past. Or maybe it's just laid out differently and it feels that it contains more. I'm certainly I did take a look at the maps. The maps were also a bit more detailed. Some of the setbacks of these applications, although I do believe groundwater travels so much that sometimes I question whether 50-foot setback or a 200-foot setback over the longer term makes a difference. It's a bit disturbing to see some of the chemicals being applied. Glyphosate is on in the sites of the European Union to ban by the end of 2023. And yet that's one of the chemicals being applied. So I don't know whether we have any ability or desire to comment on that. I would think it'd be nice to ask for minimization of that because it will end up in our drinking water. Again, we're not, even though they have some designated setbacks and no application zones or minimal application zones, we are a town that's drinking the water, whereas a lot of the other towns on the list are not drinking the groundwater, that is. And they offer protections to surface waters, so I guess that'll be for more under Concom's jurisdiction, but I don't know what the board thinks about that.
I agree with you. I think that I don't really know how to educate people, because I think that there's either a complete lack of awareness or maybe even denial that it's never going to affect us. And I think people, even on this board, don't really worry that much about some of these things. So I don't really know, but I think it might be worth having some exposure to the general public because there might be some interest.
When you say people on this board, are you talking about us or are you talking about
I'm just saying that
others?
In general, sometimes like you kind of act like I'm out of line when I want to be cautious and enforce our regs and things like that. So I don't really know how people feel. I just think that it would be important and valuable to talk about this type of thing and the risks that we might have to take because we can't, or the risks that we are taking because we can't control the flow of water, and because we do drink the groundwater, and things like risk of overflowing septic systems are an example of where things may be getting into the groundwater that we don't realize. And so that's all. I'm just saying that I agree with you, Daryl. I think it's a good point, and I think that it will be valuable to have a discussion on it. And we don't have a lot of control over what people do, but I think it's important for people to be informed and make informed decisions and take risks that they want to, if people feel comfortable taking.
Well, this is,
I mean,
this
I
is
think
not-
for this one, this is totally out of our regulatory purview.
Right, but I think
just
it's
like,
still important to educate people.
yeah, and I think to Daryl's point of, I think for the question of, is there a role for us as a drinking, sort of well water dependent community to sort of flag for the state, hey, this is one of the things we worry about that's specific to us, and we want to make sure we've communicated that. I think that's probably the scope of what we can
Yes.
offer, since we have no local oversight. And so, Rebecca, it sounds like you'd be enthusiastic for Sherborn to share that feedback with the state as
Yeah,
an example of a larger pattern of things that you feel like are important.
yes, and I think that education, what I'm trying to emphasize is how important it is for people to be educated, because I do believe that there is perhaps an underestimation of well, it would be fantastic if this bill goes through on, next week, which probably won't, but for regulation, for the state being able to, having to regulate our particular drinking water supplies. But I think that people may share the interest in whether or not these sorts of things can end up in our drinking water. And I think our role, because we don't have a regulatory purview, our main role is education. And but that goes both with this particular situation, but also with what is the significance of owning a well, and how the natural resources which are being depleted, across the country because of global warming and because of, industrial waste and all sorts of many factors. It'll be important for us as a board to simply help educate people. And that's already starting with the Septic 101 series. It'll be great to have Daryl and Mark on a board to help discuss some of these things with a wider audience, because I do think that many people probably would share Daryl's concerns if it was understood that it could actually affect people on a more individual level. That's all.
Perfect. Thanks so much,
So-
Rebecca.
Yeah, Matt, I would agree with you. Kind of, I guess what I'm envisioning, and I just wanted to get feedback from the board and maybe add this to the next agenda, because it's not due until, I forget when, either late May or so, is just to let the board bureau that oversees that know that we are concerned about those applications for reasons of the impact on groundwater. I don't know that we have any authority on that, but if they don't know that we're concerned, they can't think about it. So,
No, I think so. Let's add that to the 517 agenda. But I think that's a great point, Daryl.
Yeah.
okay.
And I think it's like a lot of things in life, we have relative risks, and we obviously, we want to have certain things. And so we take risks, and but I think it's important for people to be informed so that some catastrophe doesn't happen and people say, oh, you never told us. But the reality is, the information is all there, but it's not always easy to understand the implications of certain risks. And so I think it's good for us to help educate people.
Sounds good. Thanks, Rebecca. With that, I think our last, if I've got my list right, our last non-agenda item is the proposed regulation changes for public hearing. And so, Ellen, it looks like we're shooting for June 7th. Is that correct?
Yes. And the legal notice will be in the Hometown Weekly on May 18th and May 25th. The first notice has to be at least 2 weeks prior to the hearing. And since Hometown Weekly publishes on Thursdays, it pushes it back, a week. So it'll be May 18th and May 25th. It'll be in Hometown Weekly, and then it'll be the hearing on June 7th.
Fabulous. Well, Ellen, there was a huge amount of work that went into that in terms of helping shepherd all this through. And I know that you had to go through meticulous detail. Just want to acknowledge how much that was, because it was a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot, thanks.
Yes, it's quite a long document of changes, which is much longer than I've seen before.
And so I think that's our last agenda item, and I wanted to go rogue a little bit on my last agenda item, just because I know that with Ellen's attention to detail, this will be memorialized in the minutes into perpetuity, and to say both how grateful I am to have had an opportunity to serve. And I think part of what has so stood out is just the exceptional service we as a town get from both Ellen and Mark and Tom and many of the people who are navigating a situation where the answer is no, and we're trying to find a way to yes, to work with property owners and homeowners in periods that are fraught. I think for me, what has stood out is the legacy of good fortune the town of Sherborn has, extending back literally decades, of the attention, the conscientiousness, the reliability, and the quiet work that these guys do on our collective behalf that I think too often goes unacknowledged. And so felt like there's no better way to close out my 6 years with the board than with a grand huzzah for the people who support us, and just an expression of gratitude, because so often what gets communicated at dinner parties and other places are where people are disappointed. And so wanted to make sure there was some place where a big thank you was shared with these people we have been so lucky to have supporting us.
Oh, thank you.
And for Diane and Julie, there really is actually a gavel. Even if all the meetings are Zoom, you can know that it's somewhere, and that it lives up to every hope and aspiration you may have for gaveling.
And I would just want to say that your comments about the staff support that we have is amazing. It makes our job, it's not an easy job, but it makes it so much easier, because we have people who are excellent and knowledgeable and
Yeah,
trustworthy and good thinkers.
much to be
Great.
grateful for. So oh, go ahead, Mark.
Matt, you can't get out of this without me saying something, please. You get to see me live now. Well, first, I want to thank you, Matt. You have just a great way of expediting our meetings in a very expeditious way. I really can't say more. I don't know many people that have that talent that you have. Your medical knowledge. I mean, we're very lucky to have medical people on this board, and we're very lucky to have medical people on this board, especially through COVID. So I appreciate your medical knowledge. And last but not least, I won't make it too long, but your sincerity and your humor. I really got a lot of chuckles while you were chairing the meetings, and just your little plugs at certain times. So thank you very much for serving on the Board of Health. And I'm glad to be part of this board.
I will also say that the best part of today's meeting was hearing my wife laugh downstairs uproariously as you described me being verbally efficient. Guys, thank you so much for everything. With that, do I have a motion to close our meeting tonight?
So moved.
Second. No, sorry, I won't second it. We want to stay with you longer.
I love it. We'll leave it open.
That's an
Ellen,
interesting strategy. Okay.
Ellen, the minutes are going to be really long, and they're going to get kind of tangential.
Oh, no.
All right, guys. Well, I will second it. And with that,
Oh, yeah, I forgot you could do that. I guess I could nay, but I'll say Daryl, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Matt Vitale, aye. Have a fabulous night, everybody, and thanks for
Night,
everything.
everyone. Thanks
You
again.
too.
Matt.
Bye-bye.
Bye.